wanted to put together an event like this that's, you know, yes, we're going to talk to Pam and have like a mini podcast session, but it's really focused on the wines from these Latiné wine brands. I was like, I want to support another, you know, women-owned business, black-owned business. So I was like, hey, Joy, you want to do this? And she was like,
heck
yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Anytime I get the chance to talk about cheese and charcuterie, I'm in. And wine.
Yes.
She's gonna talk about the wine. I'm gonna
Yeah. So that's what we're doing, and then we were able to reach out to Larchmont Charcuterie.
So then I reached out to Natalie because we have a cheese chat, if you will, where a bunch of the local women that own cheese and charcuterie businesses, we chit chat. And Natalie's a little bit newer to our group.
Yes.
But I knew that her family had a charcuterie business. We'll talk about charcuterie because, you know, when you say a charcuterie board, it's really a cheese and charcuterie board. I'm the cheese, she's the charcuterie. So we'll let Natalie take it away.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Natalie, and I actually don't work in this industry at all. My dad is the chef. He is French, and he makes all of these meats. They're artisan meats. So I just I'm actually a meat expert because I grew up with sausage hanging from the ceiling all the time. So pretty much any question you have about any meat, how it's processed, you want to know about nitrates, how do you store your meat, what do you do with your meat, how do you pair your meat, that's sort of where I come in. So we distribute the actual, this is like a huge chunk of copa. So we distribute wholesale to all of these small businesses, and we sell all our products at Benissimo Cheese, which is 3 locations in San Diego. So yeah, we're so excited to be a part of this and for you to try everything.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to actually make sure that we introduce Daisy. She is the owner of El Cholo's Kid, who has graciously allowed us to use her space. Daisy, is there anything you want to say?
Thank you for coming. This is a Cholo's Kid, and we've been around. I've been around since 2008, but this is my first brick and mortar location. So I know not everybody gets down to downtown Chula Vista very often. So thank you for making the trek if you are from further out. And I hope you check out the other people and see there's a ton of breweries, coffee shops. Obviously my amazing little store. And so thank you for coming and thank you ladies for choosing my shop to have your event.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Alondra, if you can come up here. Alondra is the president and CEO of the San Diego Hunger Coalition, which thank you guys for purchasing a ticket because 10% of every ticket sold is going to the San Diego Hunger Coalition. So would you like to share a little bit more about what you guys are doing?
Yes, thank you, Jessica. And I'm actually one of Jessica's #1 fan of her podcast. I love her podcast and how she empowers Latino brands and communities of color. And I have the honor of being the president and CEO of San Diego Hunger Coalition. We are a local nonprofit. We've been around for 50 years now. We are a backbone organization, which means that we provide services and resources to the other community-based organizations that work in the hunger relief sector. In front of you, you have one of our flyers. We have that flyer available in 13 different languages. Those ones are in English. I have some of them in Spanish as well. But if you go to our website, it's going to be available in other languages as well. So this is, we do know that the food assistance programs are a very complicated system to navigate, especially for families that might be afraid of public charge, or we also know that we usually don't talk about not having enough food, right? Because it's not something that we tell to our neighbors or our family. But we also do research, and our research shows that 1 in every 4 San Diegans don't have enough food to have 3 nutritious meals a day, which means that from your neighbors, at least 1 of them don't have food, and they don't talk about that. That's why we encourage a lot of people to share these flyers. We do research, advocacy, and resources like this, and trainings for community-based organizations. If you want to learn more, you can just go to sdhunger.org and support us, or please. One of the things that you can do to support our cause is to just share these flyers on your social media, on your Facebook groups, on your Nextdoor app as well, so you never know who's looking for assistance. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. So thank you guys so much for coming. Like I said, I know some people are running late. I've got messages and everything. Fine. We're gonna do a mini. Well, we're gonna go over the sparkling Gewürztraminer. We're gonna get you tasting the Chardonnay. While you're doing that, Pam's gonna come up. We're gonna have like a little mini pod while you guys are tasting that. And then once we're done, then we're gonna do the other tasting so you can taste with the cheeses. Starting with the Chardonnay, you'll taste with the cheeses, and then you'll be able to build your own board. So whether you decide to eat it here or you decide to take it home, that's up to you. But so what you have in front of you is this my cup. So right now, the first thing that you guys got was the sparkling Gewürztraminer, and Martha asked if this was from Germany, and this is actually not from Germany. It is from the Willamette Valley in Oregon, and it is by Para Wines, which is a Latino-owned wine brand in Oregon. And if you don't know, so I actually created the very first directory of Latino-owned wine brands based in the United States. So this is not Cal Valle, this is what's actually in the United States. And it was really important to me when I started the podcast. I was just going out and buying wine and everything, and it was really the belief. I was like, there has to be Latino-owned winemakers. There has to be. Why can't I find them? Google is a wonderful thing. I started Googling, but then I would only find 15 to 20. I would find like 15 to 20 articles. I would find articles and they'd all have the same 15 to 20 wines. And I was like, there has to be more. There has to be more. So I reached out to MAVA, which is the Mexican American Vickers Association. And they were like, oh yeah, let's put you in touch here. And I got to meet them in person. And, during the pandemic, we had virtual wine tastings. And, this industry is very, very small, especially when you are talking about black and brown wine brands. Because there are over 11,000 wine brands based in the U.S. But 0.01% are owned by the Latino community. Yet almost 80%, I actually think it's more, but almost 80% of agricultural workers come from our community. So it's a huge disparity. We have people from our community working the land but not owning the brands. But now we know we work the land and own the brands. So this is just something that I've been very, very passionate about. And in Oregon, they have Joye, which is their, Latino-owned wine brands that support those. And then there's some in Washington. There's at least one or two in Texas. There's even on the North Fork of Long Island, a Mexican-owned winery, a Latino-owned winery. So we're everywhere. We just need to look. So I'm really happy to be able to provide a resource that people can find those. So this is, like I said, a sparkling Gewürztraminer. Normally you find these out of Germany, and normally they tend to be sweet. So what Sam has done is actually picked it a little bit early so it's not as sweet. So if you actually have a chance to really taste it, and it's always subjective. So you may not taste it, but if I tell you, you're probably gonna taste it, right? I'm gonna tell you, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I got it, I taste that. There was only 80 cases created, and they are sold out. So yeah, so unfortunately you won't be able to get any more, so just savor everything that you can get here today. So you're gonna taste, when you taste it and really let it kind of sit on your palate, you'll taste like pineapple, lemon, kiwi. And when people talk about stone fruits, they're the fruits that have pits. So like plums, apricots. So in this case, it would be more like apricot and peach. So these types of wines, and this type of wine especially, is really good with spicy food. So if you have, because it'll kind of put that coat on your tongues to help alleviate that. And the citrus notes will kind of combat the spiciness of it. So that's what we're starting with. This one does not have a pairing. This is just a fun way to start. So salud. I hope you have.
I have a little bit more.
You have a little. Oh, I know. Martha's getting crazy.
Yes, the first time I liked it.
The funny thing, so if you wanted to pair this with the cheese, a nice blue cheese would go well with this. So just for future, if you're having anyone over and you have a nice Gewürztraminer, that's the one. And I was telling Jessica, I don't normally like them because they're kind of sweet to me, but as soon as I sip this, I was like, oh, it's so nice and dry.
And this
So
is
I was
perfect for like a
surprised.
day like today, right?
Yeah.
Like it's warm, but not too warm. It
Yeah.
just,
It was perfect.
yeah, it just is nice and bright and acidic. And I want to give a shout out to Martha because I think I don't know, tell me if she came in from the IE today, or she came in yesterday.
You did.
You did. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So
Thank
can
you.
anybody beat her? No? Okay. She's like, why would anybody?
You get the award for the longest travel.
Yes, yes. And actually, one of the wines that we're having today by Oak Mountain Winery, Martha, and I want to give you your flowers for this. She had actually met me at Dofo Winery.
Oh, I
She's
like
like, come to Dofo, and they're an Argentinian-owned winery out of Temecula. And then she's like, I think that there is a couple others. So I looked them up, and that's how I found Oak Mountain Winery.
I felt the vibe.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
But Oak Winery, they're new though, right? I mean, not the winery, but the owner.
Yeah, he's been there
'Cause
for
they-
just over a year.
Yeah, because it wasn't him before, was it?
No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
under new management, so I was very surprised, but very happy to hear. And
Yeah.
we got one right here.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have a Pinotage that we'll try later.
It's the only cave, by the way, in Temecula.
Yes.
If you ever go, it's the only cave winery.
I love that one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fun.
I think we're gonna go ahead and get the Chardonnay. And before you all had, I gave you a glass, but then you all have another glass as well. So, we can put it in that. Yeah, I give you, I think, a glass that was already there. My husband, my lovely husband is our pour today, Antonio. And yes, and then my son Isaias is our videographer today. So.
Right. It's
Yes.
a whole family affair.
Yes. So what we're having today is going to be a 2022 Chardonnay from the Carneros Valley in Napa. And this one is actually a steel barrel aged.
You're bringing some good ones.
Yes.
I was nervous
Well,
about the Chardonnay.
I will say this. I am normally not a Chardonnay fan because when you think of Chardonnay, you think of buttery and heavy and it coats your mouth. And like I said, wine is very subjective. My mother-in-law loves those types of wines. I'm not a fan of those types of wines just because I feel like it's too heavy. If I'm going to have a heavy wine, I want it to be like a Cab or a Merlot or a Zin. I don't want my white wines to feel heavy on my palate. So this one is a still barrel aged. So still barrel aged tends to be, a lighter, a little bit more citrusy, not as, you might have some, a little bit of butteriness, but it's not, that's not gonna be the first thing that you taste. So, and this one actually is, this one you're gonna get apricot, lemon zest, and then maybe some like honey notes. So you might get that, and it's at 13. This one I know is 13.6 alcohol content. So yeah, for a Chardonnay, that's strong. So and then what? Go ahead and go and talk about.
And
what
I've
I'm
just
pairing
given
with that.
you a really nice, it's an English cheddar. It's literally one of my favorite cheeses. Well, I'm gonna say that a few times this afternoon. But this one really is. That's our whole our family loves this one. So this pairs really nicely with the Chardonnay, especially the unoaked, because it is a little bit lighter, but it's a higher volume alcohol content. So that sharpness of the cheddar will go well with that Chardonnay. So let me know what you think. And I'm with Jessica, like I like the buttery Chards, but I just discovered the unoaked and it's like a whole different taste than the oaked. Isn't that good?
This is the English what now?
The English cheddar. Yeah.
So what I always suggest, right? You take your wine, take a bite, take your wine so you can taste it by itself. Then you take a bite of the cheese, then drink the wine again, because then you can see if on your palate how it complements it. Like sometimes you'll take something and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this tastes terrible. I would never pair this together. Or, oh my gosh, this tastes amazing. So anytime we're doing the pairings, take a drink of the wine first so you can get a taste of the wine like on its own. And then take a bite of whatever food, whether it's the cheese or charcuterie, and then take another sip of the wine.
Yes. And just so you know, you have at your table olives and crackers. They're palate cleansers. So in between the wines, you can take a bite of your cracker or olive, and that'll help cleanse your palate.
We also
And I
have,
think Natalie has some yummy charcuterie.
yeah, and cornichons are
Cornichons
also,
as well.
these are very good palate cleansers as well. They're like little pickles. Yeah, so I'm gonna open these in a second. This is a pork copa, so it's different part of the pig than a regular prosciutto, and it's meant to be shaved, which is why it's not like nicely sliced, like you're supposed to shave it right off. So this actually pairs very well with this cheese. I'm a vegetarian.
Before we go into the next pairing, I'm gonna ask Pam to come up here with me.
Podcast time.
Yes. So Pam and I met at a Latinas Who Brunch event in
Oh my
2019. Yes, remember? In 2019, and I was like, I like her. And let me tell you, Pam is very selective about who she lets into her life. So I had reached out to her and I was like, hey, do you want to get together? Like, and she's like,
She loves telling the story.
yes, because it's funny because she doesn't, because she, I get it why you're select, you know, like, I think we all need to be selective of who we share our energy with. And she was like, well, what do you want to talk about? I was like, I just want to hear your story. And she's like, okay.
What do you need?
Yeah, she's like, what do you need? Because apparently people are always asking Pam for stuff. And so I just sat there and I was asking her about her. And then later she was like, yeah, she's like, we can be friends now. You weren't asking me for anything. You just wanted to get to know me.
Well, it's because people have reached out and like, let's be friends. And then it's like, oh, I want you to help me with XYZ. And so I'm like, just tell me what you want, and then I'll decide if I want to help you. Instead of like, you know.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you
Jessica
learn.
grows on people too. Yes. I love every minute of our growth together.
Yes.
Yes, Martha was in a bus with me and I for a wine tasting in Napa.
Nice.
And I was like, if you're boring, you can't be on this
Right.
bus.
I take the bus. I was on that bus too.
Nice.
Yes. But Pam, I would love for you to share a little bit about your story, about your journey, and because Pam is, you know, she was born here, but she was raised in Mexico City. So I think a lot of people like Grecia was born in Peru, right? We have a lot of Latinos here, so and then obviously Alondra was born in Mexico, and so I just think that people just really identify with your story and how you continue, even when things are really hard. Like I look up to you, so I'm just like, girl, I don't know how she does it. So can you just share a little bit about your story?
Sure. So I'm Paco Rubias. I was born here, grew up in Mexico City, did a little bit of back and forth, and then I came to the U.S. because you don't know what you don't know. And so I knew I was a U.S. citizen. I didn't know anything else. And somewhere, somehow, probably a show, I heard that if you're a U.S. citizen, you can go to college or university. No universidad. And so I was like, look, there's like lots of my friends, they're going to Canada, they're doing like foreign exchange stuff. I allegedly have the right to go to college. And so I literally, lots of things happened in between, but then finally I was like, okay, I'm going to pick up my bags, 2 maletas, like 2 pieces of luggage, and I was 18, 19 years old, and moved from one of the biggest cities in the world, Mexico City, 22 million people, to a 65, 70,000 people town in Missouri.
Oh, that's
What I had. That was my reaction.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you go from Mexico City to Missouri?
Well, you know, when you've lived in a big city your whole life, you're like, oh, I'm kind of curious about this little town thing. You know, it was one of those things that I didn't, you don't know what you don't know. And so I got to experience America. I got to really see the realities of the United States in the middle of the country. We're in the coast. We experience a lot of disparities and very different things, but really, you experience them in the middle of the country. And so I got to experience truly what it's like to be different, to speak a different language, to be 1 in 5,000. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I went to the university that was there, and I was like, well, I'm here to go to college. And they said, we're very confused because you have a foreign transcript, but you're a U.S. citizen. So you're neither an international student nor an in-state. Like, we don't know what to do. So, made it happen. Had to wait a year. Started college, finished, and then ran away as fast as I could the moment I graduated. Here we are. And so, I wanted to share my story. I'm kind of like shortening the story. Ask the question.
Yes.
Started traveling a lot. Started listening to podcasts at the time. This is 2014. And I wanted to hear stories of people like me, especially because I had experienced all of the really weird stuff in the Midwest. And so I was kind of like, who's telling these stories? And I often found myself listening to podcasts back then. Nobody knew about podcasts. I knew about podcasts because I was traveling. And so nobody was sharing the stories of people like me. So I waited 3 years, and then I started Gumbo Gumbo because I waited and nobody did it. And my mom told me once, if you are walking through a trash can and nobody's moving it and it's getting in your way, you have to move it yourself. And so I started it, and we are like 400 episodes, like almost 400 episodes later. Jessica's been on one.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so now what I share is the stories of people that look like us, that don't have the traditional path, that grow up different, that are questioned for their identity, that are often the first and the others. And so here we are.
So so first of all, Pam, if you've seen my, I put coasters and stickers. Pam's the one who designed my logo. So when I wanted to start a podcast, she was like, no, you need to do it. Like, she wasn't basically giving me a choice. I was like, I think about this. She's like, yeah, you're going to do it.
Well, it's because we would go, so we used to live together. Not together, but like really close to each other, like a block from away. And same neighborhood. And so we would walk often, and 3 times out of the week, she'd be like, I really want to start this podcast. And I'm like, okay, stop talking about it. Let's just do it. So she did it.
Thankfully I had support. Now, you've been through, and I'm sure all of us have been through, some times where we just want to collapse and just want to buckle under the pressure because it just feels like it's so overwhelming. What are the things that have kept you moving forward when you thought like life couldn't get any worse?
I think if life is already worse, then it can't get any worse. So the only way is to keep it going. I've experienced various things. In fact, about a month ago, it was the anniversary. My sister's partner passed away by suicide, and I got 2 years. 2 years.
I think it's been 2 years.
I just don't know. You know, when those things happen, you get the call, and I don't know how long it's been. But it was one of those things that and it was my sister, and it was the kids, and you know, what's the worst it can get? I'll hop on a plane and cancel all my calls and do what we need to do. And it's one of those things that it's almost like you put one foot in front of the other, and the only thing you know is to put the next foot in front of the other. And also having clarity of what's on the other side. That there's always, like, life's a roller coaster, things go down and things will go up. And so while it's been really hard, it's also like, we're just gonna get there, because if we don't keep it moving, we're not gonna get to the other side.
Pam is also a tapping expert. That's what I said. Tam. She's putting them together. Tam, bring it together. So, can you share a little bit about what you do and why it's been so effective in people that you've been able to help?
Totally. So I also come from a family that has I think but we've experienced a lot of mental health challenges. My grandfather was, after he retired, he lost his ear. He couldn't hear. And he became so depressed for the rest of his life. And his depression led him to be an absent father. And so we don't talk about Bruno. And so all we knew is that Grandpa was sad in his room, always. And the men in my family have gotten this mental, like, we don't talk about it, we just like go and hide. And so to me, I've experienced anxiety and depression. I have ADHD, so it's a lot of fun to be in my brain. And I don't want to be like my grandpa, you know? He like literally killed himself smoking cigarettes. And I grew with the understanding that while our minds, like I have a really mean voice in my head, I also can control what I do so that mean voice doesn't get loud. So I was always very passionate about mental health because I've always also been kind of a rebel and I talk about the things that people don't want to talk about. And when I started the podcast, I brought a friend of mine who's a therapist and we started talking about mental health. And my friends literally would laugh at me and say, oh, you're so privileged, you get to talk about mental health. We just get over it. Ponte limpiar. Like if you don't feel good, get up and clean your room. Or like clean your house, you know, that's what we do. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. So that led me into this journey of like truly exploring into one, why wouldn't I talk about mental health? Two, what can we do about it in a way that's not, like my cousins calls therapists el loquero, which is like the, I don't know how to translate that.
I'm like, how would you translate that?
So, I mean, it's just really bad. And part of my mission is to remove that stigma around mental health for every gender, because we need to talk about it. And so, tapping, had to give us some context.
Yes.
So EFT is emotional movement techniques. When I was in college, I was told I had ADHD, and I thought my brain was broken for a long time. I still do sometimes. And so I went into this deep rabbit hole on how do I fix my brain that's broken, and I found a nervous system regulation tool that we use with our hands. So I've been tapping. It's called. Normally people call it tapping. The actual name is emotional freedom techniques. And so we use our fingers and our body to allow your nervous system to get regulated. Because when we are dysregulated, when we are feeling anxious, when we're angry, when we're sad, when you're feeling anything other than neutral, our nervous system is regulated. And with my ADHD, my nervous system is often dysregulated because nothing feels safe. And so I started tapping about 20 years ago, and I've not stopped. And then the pandemic happened, and I didn't know what to do. And I said, well, I have this thing that I do with my fingers that helps, so let me just go on live and share it with people. And people are like, this is weird, but let's do more. And so now I share it with people.
So let me share, like I've done tapping with Tam. With Tam. And yeah, I'm changing her name and everything. And sorry guys, just to be very honest, like when I'm on my cycle, my cramps are horrible. My poor husband will attest to, like, I am useless. I'm in pain. I'm crying, everything. So Pam was like, come over, we'll do tapping. And we did it. And she's like, you know, you do it. And every time she's like, how do you feel? And there was a point where I was like, it's worse. This isn't working. But then it started getting better. And because she taught me, I was doing it on my own. And what I realized is when I would do tapping, it would knock me out. Like I was just, it was like I was getting rid of so much pain and everything, like physical pain, that I fell asleep. Like with it, like it would get worse. It was almost like the pain knocked me out. But then I wasn't feeling the pain when I woke up for a little bit. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely reach out to Pam, because there's different things that can come up. For me, it was like a physical thing, and thankfully I don't have to worry about that anymore. But you know, if that's something you're interested in, definitely reach out to Pam. I did ask her to come just to share a little bit of her story, just so you guys would feel like, obviously you're getting the cheese and charcuterie and the wine, but just to know that there's people out there who look like us, who are doing such amazing work. I know, like every person that I know in here, I know what amazing work is they're doing in their lives. And this is just another example of somebody continually giving back to the community. So I want to thank you guys for being here and for supporting, you know, me for the San Diego Hunger Coalition, Joy, Large March, Natalie with Large March Charcuterie, like Daisy with the Cholos Kid. Like, it's really, truly appreciated. And like I said, this is just one sliver of aspect that Pam does, and I just wanted her to be able to share a little bit. I literally asked her last minute, like, I think it was on Wednesday. I'm like, hey, what are you doing on Sunday? You want to come?
Like, I don't know, eating cheese. I
So, thank you,
Thank
Pam. If, do you guys have any questions or anything before we get into the other tastings?
Yeah, Pam, what's your Instagram, by the way? So
Café con Pan podcast.
you got, hold on. Say it one more time.
Café, C-A-F-E, Con, C-O-N, Pam, P-A-M. Pod. Yeah.
So I started following you back when you during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Maybe before that, but that's when I started seeing the vibes.
Yeah.
You were doing the tapping. I have a question. Because I know that people were tuning in because there was so much uncertainty and there was so much, people were just anxious, you know, staying home and all that. What were some of the results that you saw in people, or how did they, how did they respond to that? Or what were some of the changes that you were seeing in people that were benefiting them?
For sure. So when we're anxious, because it was the anxiety, so we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what wasn't. You know, we just knew that people were dying at the time. And so when we're feeling anxious, anxiety, I always say anxiety lies to you. Because really what anxiety does is the voice in your head that is saying it's not safe. And so when you listen to that voice that says it's not safe, then we start making stories. We have imagination in our brain for a reason. We can create really awesome things, but we can also imagine stories that are not true. And so when we started tapping, the process allows us to get to that place of neutrality. So we're quieting that voice and we're not listening to it anymore. And people are able to make decisions from a neutral place. So instead of making a decision based on fear, then we're making a decision based on what's good for me in this moment. And so lots of people reached out and they were like, I was feeling like I needed to run out of the house and like buy thousands of rolls of toilet paper and, you know, like all the things. But after I tended to myself and I quieted that voice, now I don't need to, because all I can do in this moment right now in the present is to sit. And so, I mean, that's one of the biggest things why I continue to tap, is to quiet that voice and to get myself to that place of neutrality, because many times we make decisions out of fear. And then once we get to that neutral place, you're like, what was I thinking? So,
You're going to stay and have some cheese?
sure, I'll eat cheese all day.
Yeah. But you guys can, connect with Pam and ask her whatever questions. Thank you. I appreciate it. So now we're on to the next wine, which is going to be the 1467 Cellars Pinot Noir. This one is a Pinot Noir from 1467 Cellars, which is out of, and actually the grapes from this one, I believe, are out of Sonoma. And 1467 Cellars is actually like most of the wines from the Latiné community, they are family-owned businesses. They're not big corporations. They're what they're called micro wineries. So a lot of these people work at different like their day job is at different wineries, and then they come together as a family to create their own brand. So that is the case with this one, and I will say, my husband, when he tried it, who's serving you guys right now, he said this is one of the best Pinot Noirs he's ever tasted. So this is from the Petaluma Gap region, and it's out of the cool climate. This is harvested from August 2022, and it's 95.2% Pinot Noir with 4.8% of Petit Syrah. So as long as it's over a certain percentage, they can say it's a certain wine. But this one is almost 100%. I mean, it's almost 100% Pinot Noir. And yeah.
Did you say it has Syrah in it?
Syrah. Petit Syrah.
Never know.
And this one was fermented in both. This was fermented in stainless steel and aged French oak. So when you taste it now, taste the wine before you taste the cheese. But this one has bright aromas of red berries, cherry, and you'll get some floral notes in the back. When I tasted it, I was tasting, and you guys can tell me again, it's very subjective. Was tasting raspberry and some earthy undertones. So that to me, that always I love that when wines have that earthiness. And I think when we were having wine, I think Alexa's like, "What's earthiness?" I'm like, when you kind of taste like rocks.
It's like dirt.
Like dirt. I'm like, but it's so good. And this one actually this is an alcohol content of 14.2%.
That's not creep up.
Yeah. So again, taste it, and then taste the cheese and the charcuterie, and then taste the wine again.
Yes.
You like it, huh?
So he can have that one. Okay, so here's a couple of little tips on the
Okay, which one
cheeses.
is-
So this is the, oops, there it is. So this one that I just gave you was a garlic herb goat cheese. So for those of you that might be lactose intolerant, or just sometimes your tummy's a little weird, goat cheeses, anything outside of the cow. So goat cheeses are great for those that are lactose intolerant. Also, the harder the cheese, the less, the less amount of impact it has on your system. So we've got a Parmesan here later on. That one's also a nice one too. The brie that I gave you earlier, that was actually meant to pair with the Chardonnay. Sorry, I got into Pam's story and I got distracted by the story. But the brie, I just had a question from my friend Liz. Yes, on the brie, you can eat the rind. Whenever you have a cheese and you're not sure if you can eat the rind or not, if it's soft, you can eat it. If it's hard, like the manchego we're gonna have in a little bit, you don't wanna eat that rind, but you can eat the rind of a brie. Okay, fun fact, manchego, yeah, manchego.
I mean, look how beautiful this is about the day, right?
Yeah, so you guys are gonna get to come up. Oh, I forgot to tell you, you have pens or pencils at your plate. You can start to make notes of some of the wines and the cheeses that you like. So then when you get ready to make your board to take home with you, you can say, oh, I liked that goat cheese that went with the, the Pinot, right? With the Pinot. So you can then decide or remember what you liked, and then you'll be able to pair it with your to-go board.
This is very hard because I like everything.
I know. I have to tell you, there's not a thing on here that I don't, well, I'm not gonna say that, because everybody has their own taste, but these are all pretty standard. And that one for the charcuterie, Natalie's like, we're not gonna do a charcuterie with that one because it's the goat cheese. So, but she's got more charcuterie for you.
Yes. I'm very particular about what gets paired correctly with the meats. I feel like a lot of times people just throw a bunch of stuff on a board and it doesn't, I feel like Ratatouille, when he takes the two flavors and it's then you do this and then you do this, that goat cheese has so much flavor that it doesn't make sense to pair it with a meat. That would be too much.
What do you guys think of this Pinot Noir?
That's good.
Yeah? Oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm not gonna lie, I'm glad that I get to taste it.
I know. I said to her, I'm like, so let me understand this. The wineries, they just give you wine? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, that would be such a problem. I don't even know, it would be such a problem.
I mean, I promote them all the time, and Martha was with me in Napa when I was running into people. So yeah, we promote them all the time. The next wine, are you guys ready for? You guys want to still sip on these? I want to make sure everybody's ready for the next wines. Do you have any questions in regards to the Pinot Noir?
No questions. I think the Syrah is what makes me like it because I'm not the biggest fan of Pinot Noir either. But she really hit the ballpark with that Chardonnay and this one.
You think that I'm gonna
She does
bring you
smart,
guys
doesn't
wine? That's terrible.
No, because everyone has a different palate, So
Yeah.
we have similar ones.
Yes. I mean, look, I will say this. For me, at least, I think all of these wines that I tend to have, all these Latiné wine brands, often, I feel like they're able to play with flavors a little bit more because they are smaller. So they get to, try this or try that. I do the Pinotage first. So the Pinotage is a 2019 Pinotage, and it is from Oakmount Winery, which is in Temecula. So this is a local Latino-owned, first Mexican-owned winery out of Temecula. And there's another one, but I think they're just outside of Temecula, so it's in Temecula Valley. And I had the opportunity to sit down with him and talk to him for the podcast. And yeah, you saw it? You saw it on YouTube.
That's right.
He was this is my
Great
videographer.
job on that one. I was like, yeah, you
My son,
killed
he
it
does
on
an
that
amazing
podcast.
job,
That's
right?
Great shots, by the way, but yeah.
So this is out of Temecula Valley, 2020 or 2019, I think, right? 2019 Pinotage. So this is a grape that normally grows in South Africa. So if I have had very few experiences with South African wine, which I have not had enough. In fact, me and my husband went to a place and got a South African wine, and they're like, it's really funky and this and that, and we're like, where's the funk? Right? Like, what? We want the funk. We want funk. But it apparently grows very well in Temecula as well. So this has deep ruby hues and a bouquet that bursts with, it says, blackberries, plums, and a hint of smoky spice, which I always like. Like, who likes mezcal?
Oh, me.
Okay, then you'll probably appreciate a little bit of smokiness. It's not going to be too much overpowering, but it will have a hint of smokiness on it. So think of dark fruits. It might have some notes of cocoa, and again the earthy undertones. Somebody's like, well, who's eating dirt? I'm like, I don't know what dirt tastes like, but I would imagine this is what it tastes like. It tastes pretty. I smell it.
Yeah.
Right? Except my son just admitted he likes eating dirt.
You didn't make me see him. Don't say that.
So this is something that would go great with grilled meats, with barbecue, stews, and like I said, it is something that is in.
And this one we're pairing with a Gouda. So
Oh, I can smell. Can you guys smell the smoke? Take a smell. So here's what I always do when I get my wine. I have my wine, I smell it, and then swirl it, and then smell it again because it opens up the. I'm not trying to be bougie. It's called the bouquet, but it's really the smell of the wine.
No, you're an expert. We understand.
I'm not an expert, but I'm constantly learning. All right. Anything you want to
Tell us how to look at it, how to smell it.
look at it, smell it, and listen. Did we taste this when we were there? See, I couldn't remember. So when we went to meet, so the owner is Johnny Leon, Oakmount Winery, and then he was like, "Well, I'll give you a tasting." So they gave us like, I don't know what, 6 wines, he says?
Yeah, they gave us.
They gave us a lot that we had to stay there and eat. By the end, we were like, I can't drive. Can you drive? Nope, can't drive. So, and the food there is so good. The view, if you really want an amazing view in Temecula.
It's the best view in Temecula.
Yeah, the best view in Temecula, and the only wine cave in Temecula as well.
The wine cake is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cute during Christmas time.
Yeah.
What is it?
So it's called Oak Mountain Winery. Yeah. So can you guys taste a little bit of the smokiness in there without being overpowering? My mezcal lovers, can you taste it?
I feel like it tastes a little bit more since I had that.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, which one is the one
Oh, you
that?
already had the meat? Amazing.
Which is that went with it?
So that is our beef saucisson. So most salamis are actually made with pork, especially when they're cured the way that like a classic saucisson is cured. So this is smoked, which is why you're getting the smoky flavor. But cured meat means it's not cooked. So in order to get that flavor, they'll light wood, right? And they'll like have a big bonfire and then use a fan to blow it into a room, a smoke room. So it's actually cold smoke that gives it that flavor. because if you put it with the smoke, it would cook, and then it's not charcuterie anymore. So that's where that flavor comes from. And there's one other product that's like actually even smokier than this one, which is a beef bresaola, which is kind of like a prosciutto but with beef. And that will pair separately, but this one really brings out any type of smoky flavor. It's very good with the Gouda, with the Gruyere. It's good with Parmesan. I also love it with like when I make grilled cheese, because I have like a ton of meat in my fridge. But if I'm gonna make a grilled cheese sandwich, I'll do like a Gruyere or a Gouda. I'll do the beef, and then I'll do like a sweet, like a fig jam.
Oh my gosh,
That's
I was
a
just gonna
flavor.
say that.
When you're up here, like the sweetness goes very well with the smoky.
Yes.
You see why we like
Yeah.
all collaborated together?
It's so, yeah, it's so funny because when she was talking about the Gruyere with the beef, I was thinking, oh, grilled cheese.
Yeah.
Because that's like my favorite grilled cheese
too.
is to use that cheese. So yeah.
All of it's my favorite.
Yeah, I have a problem. My doctor asked me, she's like, your calcium's up a little bit. Like, do you know why? Did you drink a lot of milk? And I was like, no. And I literally, it took me like 2 minutes. And I'm like, what is it? And then she's like, do you eat a lot of, I'm like, oh crap, it's the cheese. I'm like, oh yeah. So I did have to pull back a bit. I did have to pull back a few months ago, but it wasn't
My
that
doctor
bad.
hasn't said anything about the wine.
I
so
know, when I told her what I did, she was like, oh, did your heart?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what? This is why I look so good. I'm gonna be 47 in a couple months. Just preserves me.
That's right.
Like fine wine.
Like fine wine, age grade. Last one we're gonna do is the 1467 Cellars Cabernet Sauvignon. And again, so just so you guys know, the Cabernet Sauvignon is our most expensive bottle that we have. It normally goes for $75 a bottle.
What year?
It's 2021.
Do the spicy part.
Yeah, it's a 2021 Cabernet Sauvignon. See, look at deals all over. Yes, that's it, right? And then again, once we're done with this tasting, let us know what you want a glass of, at least a glass of. I mean, I'm not gonna, if you want more than one glass, if we have milk, and I'm not gonna deny you. I am generous like that.
Yes, you are.
I will make sure everybody leaves happy but safe. Because that's my DD right there. This is going to be a 2021. This is a Napa Valley Cabernet.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you guys know, Napa Valley is very known for their Cabernets. So this is a Napa Valley Cabernet. And it's out of the Atlas Peak area. So if you know anything about that, Atlas, so you have a couple of, you have like the Carneros area, which is really known for a lot of whites, right? You have like the Russian Valley, you kind of get a little bit of both. The Atlas Peak tends to be more red. So, and this is 99% Cabernet with touches of Merlot and Cabernet Franc. So yeah, so it's gonna add some depth and complexity to the wine. So these were fermented in stainless steel and aged French oak. So a little bit of both. Yeah, French oak. So this is gonna, yeah, you're gonna get subtle hints of spice. You're gonna get that velvety texture, which means it's gonna kind of coat your entire mouth. The French oak is gonna add some toastiness and some tannins, which what tannins means is when you drink it, it kind of gives you that pucker, right? Like a little bit of dryness. So it's not gonna be too dry, but it will give you some, and this one is 14.9% alcohol.
I love me some cat.
Yeah, so most, if you don't know, most wines are gonna go between 11 and 15% alcohol. And if you see like a dessert wine, they're normally more alcohol because they add that extra alcohol. It's not that it ferments with that much alcohol, it ferments with whatever alcohol, and then they make sure that there's more alcohol added into it. So this is 14.9, so it's definitely on the higher end of alcohol content for wine. And this actually, like last night, my husband smoked some barbecue ribs. And I had, Alexis is my neighbor.
Yes.
She's been the beneficiary. She wasn't the beneficiary of last night's ribs.
And the ribs are right here.
Yeah.
Now, where are the ribs?
Where are
They're right here. But a cab goes really well with that smokiness and everything like that. So I'm not gonna lie, I had a whole bottle of cab on my side last
He was
night.
supposed to help, but he showed up late.
Yeah, he was supposed to help me, but he didn't come on time, so. I did ask him, there was one glass left. I said, do you want some cab? He's like, oh, I'm gonna go out. I said, okay. That's
You're really
fine.
pouring yourself out. Are you sure?
So I'm gonna give you another cheese with this. So I gave you the manchego, which
Yes.
is nice, right? But I'm gonna give you a.
Wait, did you have a question? Yes.
What's the name of the sausage? Oh, this is our saucisson set. It is a spicy. So this is the piquant. So at the end, there's like a little kick, which is why I was like, I have to taste this wine, but I assumed based on the cheese that it would work, and I think it does. So that's great news. But yeah, this one I would definitely use like when I do DIY pizza. This is what I'll use in place of the pepperoni because the kick is really nice. So this is very good with that. This is good with manchego. I usually will pair this with like a hard cheese always, never with a soft for some reason.
Because the cab is usually a cab is very full bodied, so it's a bold wine. Yeah, right. So it's a bold wine, so you can have that harm, that heavier like cheese. More of the general. Just think about this with wine. The higher level of alcohol content in the wine is a bolder cheese. So if it's a bold wine, you can go with a bold cheese. If it's like a Chardonnay or something that's a little bit less in alcohol content, you can go with a less bold cheese. But you can't go too wrong with cheese and wine. You know?
Oh, so for everybody, Joye's Gone Grazey is her Instagram. Café con Pan podcast.
Yeah.
Larchmont.charcuterie and at the Wine and Chisme.
Hola mi gente, thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos!